You don't get razor sharp edges like this using cheap belts. Because dull is never an option.
Hey everybody, it's Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. Quick intro to this video. Super crazy weekend, crazy busy. I don't think I've ever been this busy ever in the shop. I had so many things going. I had a ton of laser engraving jobs come in, sharpening jobs being dropped off, and it's just the way my Octobers and going into November always happens. It's always my busiest time of year. But something happened this morning that I saw, and I was like, you know what? We need to discuss this too, because this happens and crazy things happen. The first time I saw this as an issue was back during COVID. And I had mentioned to you guys, I was lucky during COVID because I, just prior to COVID, had started buying things in bulk and buying larger orders of things. But it's also one of the reasons why I seeked out my relationship with Super Grit, was because back then I was only getting belts from one supplier and they ran out of stuff. And then today, this morning, I get an email from one of my old suppliers that they're almost out of Trizac belts. And that's just something I wanted to touch on because I get a lot of messages from you guys. Many of you are doing really well. A lot of your businesses are really picking up and you're doing, more and more and more work and getting more and more clients. The one thing you don't want to have happen, and let's look, crazy things happen. I live here in Alexandria, right out of Washington, D.C. The government's been shut down. Flights have been damn near stopped. It's going to affect all kinds of stuff. It can affect like deliveries of stuff. You might want to consider, if your business is doing really well, one of the first things you should start doing is buying larger quantities of your belts. Make sure you have backups. Many of you guys have probably seen before down here. I have an entire storage box down here, and it's packed full of abrasive belts because I went through that before, and I don't ever want to run out. It's also why it's nice to even have other options. So today I'm going to review for you these Prisma belts. Also, excuse my mispronunciation of it. So this was shot over several days of trying these different belts. I think I called them Primza, P-R-I-M, but it's Prisma with an S. But if I mispronounce it like 1,000 times in the video, just forgive the mispronunciation. It should be Prisma belts. But they're pretty amazing. They are the closest belt that I have ever seen to a Trizac belt. Now, given that, they are a little bit different. One thing I found is they create a little more dust than Trizac belts do. That is, and it's obvious. Like you will see it when you're sharpening. I found that the Trizac belts, basically in the very beginning, you get that fine white dust that comes off of them, but then they kind of break in and you don't see as much dust. These were creating that kind of fine white dust almost the entire time that I've been using them. So you will see in the video how incredibly close these are, but they are somewhat a little bit different. And just know that you're probably going to see like a fine haze of dust on the things that you're sharpening the entire time, because I'm sure what it really comes down to is the ceramic formula or whatever in these belts is somewhat different than what we're used to in the Trizac belts. But my point here is also consider, just making sure you have enough inventory. We never know. You don't know. It's got government shutdown. Something happens, a natural disaster somewhere could affect, where your supplies are coming from. And it was one of the reasons that I sought out a supplier on the East Coast, because I was getting my majority of my belts before from far on the West Coast, and anything that could have happened out there could have been an issue. And I didn't want to just only have one supplier for the abrasives and things that I need. So consider that too as you're looking at abrasives, as you test out and try new abrasives. And that's the one great thing about Super Grit, has been just awesome. I've been bringing in all different types of abrasives for us to try. I recommend You know, if you have something you really love, like Trizac, which they have, it still doesn't hurt to every once in a while pick up something else, even if you're just buying one or two to try it out and see if you like it. So, you know, try the Sunmax belts, try the German belts, for the Acceleron belts from Germany, and see if you like them. And just know, even you might like something more than I do, and that's okay. We all sharpen differently. We all have slightly different styles, and some guys are edge leading and some guys are edge trailing. And just because one person doesn't like something doesn't mean that everybody else isn't going to necessarily like it, or they might like it. So it can go either way with the belts, but that's the one thing I would encourage you to do. Make sure you have a good supply. Make sure you have a backup for these crazy times where the government shuts down, and then, you know, 30 days later flights start being affected and people can't restock. You start seeing low inventory of things. You don't want to be caught with being on your last, you know, Bora 7 belt or Trizac belt and you can't get any. So that's just my point there. Think about, as your business grows, one thing, start buying the stuff that you really like and use a lot. Make sure you have a good supply to get you through any weird lulls, any shutdowns, anything that might affect your business. And that's it. So let's get into this review. My goodness, I am telling you, like, they almost look exactly like a Trizac belt. Even the colors are really close. Look, this is an A30 Trizac. This is an A30 Prisma. It even feels the same. But again, here is a A16 and an A16. Even the colors are relatively close. So they went with a dark gray for the A16 and a lighter gray for the A30, just like they do on the Trizac belts. So here's the Trizacs, and yeah, look at that. Like, that light gray is almost the same, and there's the dark gray. So that, very interesting there. This is, in my opinion, I haven't even tried it yet, but I can just tell from touching it. In my opinion, this has got to be the closest thing to a Trizac belt ever. So let's give it a shot. I just used my Bora 7 on this chef's knife here, and now it's time for the A30. And so let's see how this A30 Prisma belt does. Throws the same dust like a Trizac does in the very beginning when it's new. Feels pretty much the same. Wow. There's always that little break-in period you have with a brand new belt. When you first get them, you get all this, you know, abrasive dust that comes off. Here's our A16, which they call, it looks like a DF016. But Arturo was nice enough to mark them for me. He wrote A16 on there, so I would know it's the equivalent of an A16 Trizac. let's strap it. All right, moment of truth. Will it push cut beautifully? Yep. Little pushes all the way down. Absolutely slicing like a champion. That is absolutely the closest thing I have seen to a Trizac belt from any manufacturer. I mean, you literally, they even feel really similar. Now this one feels a little more aggressive because it's brand spanking new and hasn't been broken in yet. It's been on one knife. I have a whole day of sharpening to do tomorrow, and I will do an update to this and let you know how it does after a full day of sharpening, and we'll see how it goes. Very, very promising. We'll have to see how the longevity of this belt is, how it holds up. But so far, I can definitely tell you this. It performs and feels like a Trizac belt to me. It is really hard to tell the difference. Okay, gang, here are two equivalent belts. On the right, this is a 3M Trizac A30 belt, and on the left here is a Prisma belt in the equivalent size of an A30. It is a DF030. And I want to show you something really interesting here. So let's take a look under magnification. This is a max magnification, 4.0. All right, so this here is our Trizac belt. Interesting, right? So we have like little squares, and if you look in the square, it looks like a little tiny, almost like a pyramid. White with little checker pattern in between. Okay. Here is the Prisma belt. It's kind of the same thing. Now, how are they different? There's only been one thing that has really jumped out to me in the difference between these and how they perform. I sharpened almost the entire day today on the new belts. And the one thing that surprised me that kind of happened almost the entire time was dust coming off the belt onto the knife. So that dust that you get on a Trizac belt in the very beginning, but kind of as that belt breaks in, you don't see that dust. When you take a brand new Trizac belt out, you guys probably know this, like you go and hit it and you get a bunch of little dust that comes off. But eventually that seems to almost get to where you're almost not even seeing very much dust or almost no dust. All day today, I was getting that fine abrasive dust on the knife, and you can see that in some of the shots of sharpening. Other than that, it performed almost exactly the same. I was getting great results, great cut tests. It's just a little dusty, you know, but it's very noticeable. Okay, so I was regularly wiping the blades down from this fine dust that was on there. I would absolutely recommend that you wear a mask for sure. You should be doing that no matter what if you're sharpening. Even if you're using Trizac belts and they feel like they're not making dust, trust me, they're putting stuff in the air. But these were considerably more dusty than the Trizacs. But as far as performance goes, they are the absolute closest thing that I have ever seen to a Trizac belt. As far as the two that I used today, and these are the two that I used all day, and I did a lot of knives. Some people picked up one. I probably did at least 10 sets of knives of at least 7 per set. The only thing that I sharpened today that I didn't use these on, I did do some EDCs for someone on my Tormek machine, but I kind of purposely did everything that I could do on these. I did Japanese knives. I did a lot of Western knives. The main thing that I could say that was consistent was the fact of that dust. It was just seeing that dust on the knife. Other than that, feel-wise, performance-wise, cut test-wise, I got really good results. So let's go take a look online and because I honestly don't even know. So let's go take a look and see what the price difference is. If this might be something worth checking out. We have a lot of cool abrasive options. So we got the Sunmax belts, we got the Xeleron belts from Germany, and now we got Prisma belts. And the one that I, without any hesitation, are these Bora 7 belts. I mean, absolutely 100%. They're my favorite abrasive from Super Grit. Is definitely the Bora 7 belts are fantastic. These other belts, they're all pretty good. It's just a matter like if you need to save some money, they're definitely cheaper than what you're going to pay for a 3M Trizac belt. My recommendation would be try different things out. So if you're ordering some belts, get one of a Prisma, get one of a Sunmax, get one of an Xeleron of each kind and try them and see if there's ones that you like better than others, or see if you like certain if you like them for certain things that you might do. Like I know when I had to do a bunch of surface work on something the other day that I was going to be doing edge trailing, I grabbed those Sunmax belts and used them. And they did a great job on like kind of working on the surface of a knife. And if I had been sharpening edge trailing, they would have been great for that. But we have a lot of cool options now. And it's just a matter of what direction you want to go and how picky you are. I'm pretty picky, so I think for me, my absolute favorite are still 3M Trizacs. So if I was going to grade them, I would say the 3M Trizacs are an A+, absolutely. I would put these Prisma belts at probably, I would say probably a B+. I still, if I was out of Trizac belts, I wouldn't hesitate to grab one of these in a second. And then I would say my third favorite were the Xeleron, were nice. And then my fourth for me would be the Sunmax belts. But that was my order. So for me, it would be definitely 3M Trizac first. Second would be Prisma, and it's even a tough call there because I would say the Xeleron and the Prisma I found to be also, again, really, really quite close to each other. But I will say this too, the Xeleron belts didn't create that fine dust like I'm seeing from these Prisma belts. But these Prisma belts are without question the closest thing that I've ever seen to a Trizac belt. And I suspect the difference is probably just whatever the abrasive combination is that they're using to make those little tiny square with the triangles in the middle. is just probably a different formula than what Trizac's using, and whatever Trizac has figured out there with their 3M product is not creating a ton of dust. All right, so I just wanted to give you that update on the belts, and that would be my recommendation. You know, like pick up if you're buying, you know, if you know for sure, like if you're a Trizac lover and you're gonna buy some Trizacs from Super Grit, I would grab, you know, one of each of the other kinds and play around with them, check them out, see if there's something you like, and then maybe the next time around you might add some more or something you really like, or maybe find out you really love them. You know, maybe you do really like them, and price wise you really like them. For some people, I'm sure it might give them the ability to change their belts more often, having a belt that's less expensive, and you know that can be a factor too. I've been pretty fortunate since I do a lot of business. One of the things that I've gotten to a certain point was I don't try and run a belt till the very end of its life. You know, the second it's not performing, I buy my belts in bulk, and I don't even think twice about changing them. But I remember when I first started, you know, I wasn't doing that. I was buying a much smaller quantity of belts back then. But it's nice to have options. It's nice to have different things out there. The main thing I can say is just try them for yourselves and see what you like. Other than that, don't forget to use your discount. Use Paul25 to get 10% off. And if you're a member of the channel, make sure to use your 2 discounts because you get special pricing and you get an even bigger discount at Super Grit if you use the Paul25 along with the other discount code that you guys have in the members area. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.